For 3,000 years, Homer's epic has stood as the blueprint for Western storytelling. But what happens when you hand the 3,000-year-old oral tradition to modern cinema's most uncompromising architect? Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey isn't just a movie adaptation, it is a tectonic event, operating on a staggering $250 million budget and clocking in at nearly 3 hours of uncompromising R-rated spectacle. Nolan didn't just film a poem, he dismantled it, re-engineered its hero, and weaponized large format celluloid and completely rewrote the economics of the modern blockbuster. In Homer's text, Odysseus is Polytropus, the man of twists and turns, a master of cunning, often celebrated for his ruthless cleverness. But Nolan, working alongside a massive ensemble led by Matt Damon, strips away the romantic sheen of classical heroism. Damon's Odysseus is not a grinning conqueror, he is a haunted veteran, crushed under the weight of survivor's guilt and the psychological fallout of the Trojan War. Nolan treats the Greek king less like a mythological demigod and more like an operative trapped in a psychological labyrinth. His cunning feels less like divine cleverness and more like a survival mechanism born of profound trauma. When Odysseus finally washes ashore in Ithaca, the tension doesn't come from whether he will slaughter the suitors. It comes from the terrifying realization that home has changed and so has he. The monster isn't just Polymus or Circe's magic. It is the dark mirror of what Odysseus had to become to survive. If you expected a straightforward, chronological retelling from Troy to Ithaca, you don't know Nolan. True to the structural DNA of Memento and Oppenheimer, the Odyssey shatters linear time. The film opens not with a gentle departure, but deep in the disorienting friction of a journey already long underway. Time slips, bleeds, and loops. Nolan uses cross-cutting and temporal loops to mirror how memory actually works under duress. Years spent trapped with Calypso or wandering the wine-dark sea are compressed and expanded, forcing the audience to feel the psychological distortion of exile. Beyond Homer, Nolan weaves structural motifs from Virgil, turning the narrative into a non-linear mosaic where past, present, and mythic destiny collide simultaneously. For years, Nolan has crusaded for celluloid. With the Odyssey, he pushed the medium past its absolute breaking point, making history as the first feature film shot entirely with IMAX cameras. IMAX cameras are notoriously loud, heavy, and cumbersome. Scaling them up for a multi-month ocean and land epic required radical engineering. There are no digital safety nets here. Nearly every frame was captured practically. The production was a test of endurance for the crew and cast alike. Working without comfort zones, the physical weight of hauling massive large format rigs across rugged terrain mirrored the grueling, punishing journey of the crew of Ithaca. The grain, the depth, and the violent clarity of the image aren't just aesthetic choices, they are physical assaults on the senses that force you to feel every wave and blade of grass. Perhaps the most radical element of the Odyssey isn't on screen, it's in the ledger. Handing a major studio a $250 million check for an R-rated, 3-hour classical epic flies in the face of modern algorithm-driven Hollywood. By tying the film's release exclusively to premium large-format screens, commanding weeks of uninterrupted IMAX real estate, Nolan and Universal engineered an unprecedented box office stampede, grossing over $264 million globally in its opening weekend alone. The Odyssey proves a vital economic truth for modern cinema. Audiences will show up in droves not for intellectual property or cinematic universes, but for unapologetic, large-scale auteur ambition. It redefines the tentpole not as a corporate product, but as a massive cultural happening. Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey succeeds because it refuses to treat antiquity as a museum piece. By merging brutal physical filmmaking with a fractured psychological exploration of homecoming, he turned a 3,000-year-old poem into a mirror for our own anxious modern era. It is loud, beautiful, agonizing, and entirely singular, proof that as long as filmmakers like Nolan are willing to stare into the storm, the big screen will never truly sink.